Hello, my name is Samsu, and today we will be talking about black portrayal in early cinema. Um, the time period that we'll be focusing on is in early 1900s because that is the time of the rise of storytelling movies. In the past, movies used to be just silent little clips where people just piece together random tidbits, such as like someone like shooting, like firing off a hose or um, make just looking at like a flower. But as the early 1900s progressed, so did storytelling in film. And with film, you can see representations and stereotypes that arose, and from that, you can see what the society and industry back then thought of certain things. And in doing so, I want to focus in on the black community and how they were represented through that cinema. So before we start this video, I just want to preface that through the scholarly articles I used, I decided to pick 6 stereotypes that were fairly popular and fairly common that I saw across my research. And again, the names of these stereotypes are not, I guess, the official ones. They probably go by many different names, but those are the ones I will be sticking with. And out of respect for our history, I will be trying to use the words captives for slaves. Um, just because that's something that our professor in anthropology shared that really, I guess, convicted me. So let's talk a bit about why the 1900s. So 1900s, early 1900s is only a couple decades after slavery was abolished. So tensions are still rising high between the black community and the white community. And as entertainment became more popular in this nation, um, you truly can see who is in power by what film or what form of cinema is most popular or seen. Thinking about this time period, one of the biggest movies that we will be looking into in this video is Birth of a Nation. That will be probably our biggest film that we're going to be focusing in on this video, and we'll be showing and finding stereotypes that are shown through that. And the 6 stereotypes that I want to touch briefly on before diving into them um, are the coon, Uncle Tom, the tragic mulatto, the mammy, and the black brutal buck. Before we dive into the different stereotypes, let's take a look at the film that we're going to be looking at today. So, as I said, today we'll be looking at Birth of a Nation. The reason why I chose that is because I think it shows the 5 stereotypes mentioned earlier very well. Very strange wording for that, but overall, it shows the stereotypes that we want to look at. So to give you guys a little background information for those who haven't seen Birth of a Nation, Birth of a Nation is a 1915 American silent film made by D.W. Griffith, who was one of the biggest and most innovative directors in silent film at that time. Taking its story from the novel The Klansman, the film was about, oh man, what was it? It was a 3-hour long film. So some will call it an epic about a family in the South and the interactions with black people and people from the North. As you probably could tell, being adopted from the novel The Klansman, it's a film that promotes the KKK and follows a family that essentially saves everyone in their town from the black takeover. So the film is divided into 2 parts. The first is the Civil War, and it focuses on this white family in the South. And it talks about how the family in the South interacts with the family in the North, and they fought the Civil War together, and some of their kids died together, and it's really touchful and really sad. And then eventually the first part ends with the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. And from there, slavery is abolished, and black occupation soldiers from the North come down, and they eventually occupy the southern town. And one of the sons who survived, he's from the South. He comes back, and he's just like, yo, that's not cool. And he witnesses and sees that the black occupation soldiers are harassing their women, messing up their government. So he gathers the KKK, the Klansmen, and they save the town, taking over, saving their white women from being raped by black men. And that's the end of the film. Now that you guys got a quick synopsis, let's dive straight into the stereotypes. The first stereotype we're going to look into is the coon. Usually the amusement and humor provider via their stupidity. They're seen smiling and just prancing around, dancing around with instruments. And whenever they see white folks, they run over and they just want to make sure that the white folks are enjoying their time by watching them do stupid things. And This character has a huge dependence on the whites for guidance, and usually they're ignorant and satisfied with their position, and they just continue doing what they want. It's a very weak and submissive character that really puts the captives into a really bad perspective. And usually there are two forms, as you can see in this clip. In the clip that I'm showing, there's an Uncle Remus and there's a Pickaninny. So the Uncle Remus is usually the old man form of the coon, and then the Pickaninny is usually the child form. And as you can see, they interact with their white folks and just start dancing around for absolutely no reason at all in order to provide entertainment for the white folks. So the next stereotype we're going to look into is the Uncle Tom. Also known as the good Negro, the Uncle Tom is usually abused by whites, and despite the abuse, they still remain loyal to their white masters. Um, and not only are they abused by white masters, they could also be abused by their black peers. But no matter the outcome, they still remain loyal to their white master. Um, in the article I read, the way they put it, they are docile and obedient submissiveness to whites, and they're always praised for their loyalty. Looking into Birth of a Nation, there's a scene where a former slave is abused by the North soldiers, and as you can see, he's about to be lynched and hung. But after he frees himself, he runs straight to his masters and just tells them everything, and he's praised for his loyalty, as the clips are shown. With such a mentality, it again encourages and shows the submissiveness that some captives had during this time period. The tragic mulatto. This is the result of an interracial relationship. Usually, a white master would have sex with an African captive, and both are usually pureblood, and then that thus resulting in an interracial baby. And these babies become and grow up to be light-skinned African Americans, and they're trying to figure out whether or not they're white or not in their society. And usually, this character draws sympathy because the white blood could have resulted in luxury, but is denied due to the black blood. And when this character is a female, this is where she usually has an audience that feels bad for her because of the prevention of having that whiteness carry her on with her life. But in Birth of a Nation, there are two characters in particular that are tragic mulattoes, but the one that I want to focus on is Silas Lynch. Silas Lynch is the second hand of the Northern Union leader, and he is sent down along with the Civil War, the Northern soldiers, to occupy the southern town. As a mulatto, he is trying to figure out who he is and what respect he can gain. As you can see in these clips, he forces his respect upon others because he is from the north. And because of his whiteness, he therefore thinks that he can also marry a white girl. And this actually becomes a central conflict for the majority of the final part of the film. And again, because of his blackness and Birth of a Nation being a very racist film, he is shown to be very devious, very shifty, and trying to take advantage of everything and giving way for the black people in this film. And with this shifty character, it shows that there is fear in the white community. At this time, as I said earlier in the video, movies are a strong representation of what people feel. And this portrayal not only instilled fear into the audience, but was also a reflection of the fear that was felt amongst the centuries. What do we do if we have people when we have black people who want to marry a white woman? What do we do and create that separation? These are all real questions that have been asked and thought about over the past centuries. So, Silas Lynch is interesting because he shows how people want to react to this situation. He's shut down. When the KKK comes, they rescue the white women from him and save the day. They don't want black people and white people intermingling. They want to create that separation, and his character is a personification of that matter. The mammy. This is probably one of the more popular stereotypes about black people because this was one of the biggest ones that erupted from this time period. So usually the mammy is a large woman who is the mother figure that forces others what she wants. Um, in one of the articles I read, and I quote, "She is fat, loud, and loves God." Usually depicted by a fairly large woman. She's seen bossing around her peers and masters, making sure that they're being taken care of and that they're making good decisions. And she loves her people no matter what. And despite her loud nature, white people are fine with her because she's a necessity. She is considered inferior and unsophisticated, but she is a necessity to life because she's the one who takes care of their children and makes sure the house operates correctly. In the clip shown here, she is seen arguing with a man from the north, a free man from the north, and as you can see, she is fairly conservative and wants to have her way with things despite her gender and role in life. The final stereotype that we want to touch on is the black brutal buck. The black brutal buck usually wreaks havoc and wants to have sex, particularly with white women. Looking into the history, there's actually two types of bucks or brutal bucks. The first is called the brute. The black brute wants to raise violence due to their sexual repression. And then the black buck is on the opposite side of the spectrum. They have too much sex and violence, and they just want to continue to have sex. Now, these two stereotypes are formed in order to make up for the fear of black women wanting to have their white women. This is a huge problem because in the society at the time, white women were considered pure and beautiful. They're a prize, essentially. And then when interracial relationships happened and slavery was abolished, this became, again, mentioned earlier about the tragic Mulatto, this became a fear. It became the reality. So because the white people were the ones who were running the cinema, they want to portray this in a horrifying manner in order to create that fear. So in Birth of a Nation, this was displayed through the character called Gus. Gus is a free man from the North, and after the war was won by the North, he came on down, and because of his lack of sexual activity, he started to yearn to have sex, in particular with the white women. And throughout the film, you see him stalking, preying upon these white women who are innocent, off to the sides, just doing their own thing. And eventually he gets the corner one, and he just speaks out to her saying, "Oh, I want to be with you. Oh, like, let me be the man of your dreams." He didn't say that exactly, but he drives her to the point where she would rather kill herself than be touched by him. In the clip shown, she jumps off a cliff, and thus results in the KKK coming to kill Gus. So this is a very extreme and violent portrayal of the black brutal buck, but this is the reality that the white industry wanted people to notice. They wanted them to have that fear of black people. As I come to a closing, I think there was a lot of reflection going into this video as I've researched these different stereotypes in early cinema. And I think one thing I can say for sure is that I'm very glad to see where cinema has gone when it comes to black stereotypes. Yes, I will admit the cinema is not, film industry is definitely not perfect. There's definitely mistakes that are made, and there are definitely successes in other places, but clearly cinema has definitely gone far from these stereotypes, or at least trying to complicate and break those stereotypes in order to show that these are not the things that define people. These are not the things that dictate what people will do and what they will act. It was very interesting and very insightful to make this video because I think it really helped me get a broader sense of the view of what exactly America did when it came to interacting with their black brethren in those time periods. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I'll leave links to clips that I used after this video. But again, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoyed it and that you learned a little something as I did throughout this video. Sam Soup, signing out.